Welcome everyone to another episode of Tips from My Garage. My name is Lisiate Tonga. I'm a recovering addict. I'm the father of two boys, husband to a beautiful wife, and owner of online business Upgrade Version U.0, and author of ebook Q&A between two addicts. And today I want to talk to you all about relapsing. And before I get into it too deep, I want to start out by saying there are people who can actually go through the recovery process without relapsing even one time. And I think for those people uh, that can do that, it takes extraordinary willpower, a lot of strength, a lot of determination, motivation to be able to accomplish such a feat. I think it's very difficult to do, but it is possible. And I know that people can do it. And to those people, I applaud you if you've been able to come out of your recovery unscathed and without any hiccups or any relapsing. My my angle on recovery, my perspective on recovery does not include being unscathed and doing things perfectly cold turkey without any drops, without any slip ups, without any failures. And so this it will be directed to, I would say, the majority of those of you who are going through recovery that don't have as much willpower or strength. First, I want to tell you that you're not alone, and you're part of the rules. So m- the majority of people can't cold turkey everything and stay on the path of recovery. Most people that do come through recovery have to go through failure, have to go through relapsing. And so today I want to talk to you more about how to manage the process of recovery when you relapse. In my journey, I relapsed. I don't know how many times. I didn't really sit and count how many times I relapsed during my recovery. I just know I did it a lot. And it was a slow and a gradual process for me than it was so straightforward. And that is due in part to the fact that I didn't have much knowledge. I didn't have much information. I was just trying to work things out on my own without any kind of support. The only support I did get was from my faith in God, from my church community, and that was basically the only support that I had. And in fact, it was really, at the end of the day, all I needed to be able to come through my recovery journey. But I think it's a little bit more than that. But I would say that I didn't have all the answers. I didn't have any information. I had hardly any knowledge on recovery or anything like that. So it was a slow process. But I want to talk to those of you who are relapsing, those of you who know that you will relapse, that don't have much willpower or don't think you have much willpower or motivation. You're who I want to speak to. Relapsing isn't something that you plan to do. I think it's just you find yourself in a particular set of circumstances where you get triggered. So you might be in the wrong place at the wrong time. You might have ran into the wrong person. You might have watched the wrong thing, and it wasn't something that you went out and purposely did. It was just something that you came across. Now, you can minimize your triggers, and the trigger is really the first step to relapsing. And so if you can minimize the triggers that you have, then you're going to minimize your relapses. And so let's start with that. Let's just say that if the one thing that you can control off the bat is the amount of times that you relapse, and you can do that by being wary of where you're going to be, what you're doing, what you're consuming, who you're hanging out with. All of those things you can actively or proactively make decisions about that are going to minimize the amount of times that you get triggered. And so if you minimize the amount of times that you get triggered, then you're going to minimize the amount of times that you're going to relapse. So that's the first thing. But you may find yourself in a set of circumstances where you do get triggered, even if it's something that was unprovoked or that you didn't purposely do. And so when you get triggered, and if you're in the recovery journey, then you're going to come to a fork in the road, and you're going to make a decision, and that decision will be either to relapse, which in that case you will immediately begin to justify the decision you make to relapse. Oh, you have worked so hard so far, you have enough strength, you've proved yourself. You've not just proved yourself to yourself, you've proved it to others as well. You've maintained sobriety for X amount of time. You've done so well. You deserve this. These are all the things that will play in your mind to justify the decision that you will make to relapse. You only need one. Only one is not going to do anything to you. You are way stronger than that. You've proved it. You've shown that you've been able to withstand temptation. And so at your will, whenever you decide to, you can curb it, you can pull it in, rein it in at any given time. These are the type of things that will go on in your brain, the types of conversations that you will have yourself, that you will have with yourself. The other decision that you can make is to choose the alternate behavior, the alternate plan, to avoid having to go through with the automatic action plan, which is the behavior that goes along with the trigger. And I talked about this previously, is that once you get triggered, then you have a certain behavior that is linked to that trigger to get you the reward for that trigger. And so you can choose at that point of the trigger to choose an alternate routine or an alternate behavior that will ultimately help you to avoid the reward, which is what you would get if you, well, not to avoid the reward, I shouldn't say that, because we still want a reward for a behavior. We want the same reward, but from a different behavior. And so we're trying to avoid the automatic behavior that has been embedded into your brain over who knows how long. And we want to change that to something new that is more productive, that is going to get you the same reward, but is going to it's a different routine, so it's going to avoid the relapse. It's going to help you to avoid the relapse altogether, but still get you a reward for the behavior that you choose. People will think that the latter is harder to do. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is going to be difficult for you, especially in the beginning part of it, where you have to go through consciously making a different decision, consciously putting in the extra effort to choose a different routine. That is going to be, it's going to take brain power for you to be able to do that. It's also going to take willpower for you to be able to do that. So there, you are going to be in a battle to make a different decision, and people will think that way hard, difficult to do. But I will tell you that relapsing is actually more difficult to deal with, or I would say, yeah, it is. It does come with more hurdles and obstacles after the fact, which makes it more difficult to deal with. So when you relapse, it does put you on your back. It does slow down the process and can even put you into a worse mindset, making overcoming your addiction seem impossible. Avoiding relapsing altogether, even though will be hard, is way easier to deal with than relapsing. And so I want you to think about that and weigh that out in your head and study that, and in your mind think of it as, hey, okay, it is going to be difficult at the front end of it to make a better decision, an alternate decision, and choose an alternate behavior that's going to serve you, because you get a reward straight away, and everything that comes after that alternate behavior is chosen is positive. It's all good and will benefit you into your uh, for the next rounds. If you do come across getting triggered again, then you can deal with it in a much better space, because you have proof that you've dealt with it in the first place, or you've dealt with it previously and have been successful in dealing with it. And so now that you have that proof, you have that experience under your belt, you can do it again. So that's 100% a better option, but it is hard to do at the front end of it. But everything is a positive, a net positive on the back end of it, all of it. There's a couple of things that I want you to understand about relapsing. And the first thing is if you relapse, you don't go back to square one. And I hear this quite a bit. And I used to think this a lot as well in my own journey, is that once I relapse, it's just like all the work that I have done is gone. And I have to start all over again. And it's back to the drawing board, and it's back to basics, and it's back to square one again. Well, the truth of the matter is, it's not square one again. You're not starting over again. You've fallen down where you're standing. And if where you're standing is miles in front of where you were before, then you're still miles in front of where you started. And that's where you fell down. If you fall down in a race when you're running, you don't automatically go back to the front, to the starting line to start running again. And it's the same in your recovery. You don't want, if you relapse, you don't go, you don't fall down right where you're at and then go back to the starting line again. And this is something that is really important to understand, because I know so many people overwhelm themselves when they relapse, because they think, oh, I've got to start all over again. And then it's the weight of having to start over again, wiping the slate clean again, and then, starting to build the blocks again, and all these other reasons that you might have to justify why why it is so difficult now that you've relapsed to go on this journey again, because you're starting over again. Well, that's not true. That's not how it works. You've fallen where you have fallen, and what you must do at this point now is stand up where you're at and dust yourself off and continue going, and continue on your journey. You have still gained all this experience that you've had for however long it was that you've made better decisions. You've gained strength, you've gained knowledge, you've gained experience in your recovery, and those are all worth something. And that is time that you have well spent in yourself, in creating a better version of yourself. And you can't wipe that, you can't just ignore that altogether and throw it away. No, you keep that with you. And what you need to do is you need to acknowledge what has happened. Yes, did I have a slip up? Yes, I had a slip up. And then you can review the tape. I steal that line from my mentor and licensed family and marriage therapist, Tony Overbay. That's my guy. Shout out to Tony Overbay and the Virtual Couch podcast. Check him out if you get a chance to. Amazing dude. But he always talks about reviewing the tape, and it's what you want to do is if you do relapse, you don't want to sit in that space and then start beating yourself into the ground. When you beat yourself into the ground once you relapse, it's like kicking yourself once you've fallen and continually beating on yourself. And that does absolutely zero good for you. What you need to do is you need to acknowledge, yes, I have made a mistake. Yes, I have slipped, but let's review the tape, meaning let's uncover the reasons for why that happened. Let's look at the steps on how I got to the point where I relapsed, and let's try to identify them. Let's try to let's try to see if we can gain a better understanding of how I got to this point and why I relapsed. And you've got to do that without judgment, only observing, and out of curiosity. And so that you can just look at what had happened objectively, and then you will be able to see how you got to the point that where you did fall down. And once you can identify the the trigger, the automatic action plan, and everything surrounding that, the circumstances, the people you were around, the type of mood you were in, the type of environment that you were in. All of these things need to be noted. All of this needs to be taken into consideration, so that you can have a better understanding of how you got triggered and how you got to the automatic action plan, and then how you got to the reward. And then that's basically you looking over your tape of your relapse and gaining a better understanding of what happened. And anyone that's really good, like you got sports teams, they review tape all the time about how they played, and if they had a bad game, they review these things because they want to not make those same mistakes again. But they have to see what they did in order for them to be able to improve on it. And so how could you ever improve on yourself if you're not reviewing the game tape on what you're doing? It's so key for you, it's so crucial for you to be able to see what you have done, so that you can know how to make the corrections, because then you'll be able to see the gaps within that relapse, and know how better to deal with those particular set of circumstances when you come up to it the next time. So you've got to acknowledge it, and then you've got to review the game tape, and then you've got to map everything out so that you can see exactly what you did. And I think sometimes that's a difficult thing for people to do, because that's when they become judgmental. They start beating themselves up over it. They don't want to go back and look at the tape because they don't want to see that they're a failure. And instead what they do, to avoid is they go back to their vices because they need something that makes them feel good, because they don't want to feel bad anymore. But the truth of the matter is you're not going to get better unless you have a better understanding of what you're doing. You've got to be able to see that, and so that's what I mean when I talk about this quite a bit, about not being judgmental. We're so judgmental of ourselves all the time, and when we become judgmental of ourselves, we stop observing, we stop seeing ourselves objectively. We and when we've stopped observing, then we can't see what we're doing, so we can't make the corrections that we need to make. Acknowledge that it happened. Yes, I made a mistake. Let's have a look at the tape here. How can we better deal with this the next time we come to this set of circumstances? That's knowledge. That's knowledge. That's information that you're going to have that's going to help you for the next time you get to a point where you're going to get triggered. And that's why awareness is so important. The other thing that I want you to understand about relapsing is that failure and relapsing is part of the process. Don't go through your recovery journey thinking that you're going to be flawless. If you think that you're going to be flawless in your recovery, then you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're you can't achieve perfection. If, on the other hand, you can be accepting, even welcoming of the fact that you are going to fail, that is going to help you to manage your recovery more effectively. Being more accepting of the fact that you can and will make mistakes is is going to help you to be able to deal with relapsing much more effectively than thinking you're going to go through your recovery journey without without any hiccups or any slip ups whatsoever. The problem with that, it was when you start a recovery journey, you're thinking, okay, I need to be perfect, or I need to go without drinking, or taking a sip, or doing this or that. Is that if you have that kind of mentality and then you do end up relapsing, that's really much more harder on your is much more harder on you psychologically, because you start to think subconsciously in your head that, hey, I can't do this. I mean, I tried to be perfect, and basically what this says is that, I am not good enough to do this because I still failed. That is not a good mentality to have with regards to recovery. That will be more detrimental to you. I think the most important thing that I want you to remember is that you are not lost because you relapsed or slipped up. Your brain will use this as leverage to disrupt or sabotage your recovery. So there is a part of your brain that is going to fight you through this the whole entire way, that doesn't want you to recover. And this is this part of your brain, you have to continue to fight, you have to keep battling, because it's like a side of you that does not want to heal, because it believes that you require all of your vices in order for you to survive, to live even, and that if you don't have these vices, then you can't live. Like it like you could quite literally die. That's the way that your brain will come at you. It will say, if you don't have these things in your life, you won't be able to survive. Don't allow your that conversation that your brain is having with you to take control. and to talk you into going back to your default, or going back to your old life. Don't allow your brain to sell you the fact that you can't do it, that you're not good enough. You've tried, but this is the way it is. This is your identity. This is how you've always been, and this is the way that you're always going to be. This is how your brain is going to. This is the type of things your brain is going to say to you. How it's going to talk you out of staying on the recovery journey. So anytime that you do relapse, part of your brain that is going to jump jump on you and take that opportunity to beat you into the ground, to tell you that you lost and that you can't do it, because it does not want you to recover. It wants to disrupt your recovery journey. It wants to sabotage your recovery journey. It wants to prevent you from going down that road, because it's going to tell you, it's going to try to tell you that, hey, all of this that you're doing, it's so painful. You know, don't go to that pain because it's too hard, and it hurts too much. Stay over here because we can get you the help that you need immediately. If you just do this thing like right now, see, you can get a reward right now. Yes, it'll feel bad afterwards, but that's something that you can keep going back to if you need to, and if things get really stressful, so that you can so that you can cope, or that you can deal with it. But you don't need to wait. You can get it right now. If you go on this recovery journey, it's hard, who knows, and you probably can't do it anyways. I mean, look at you. You've just relapsed. You're not made for this. That's not who you are anyways. Let's just go over here and fix the whole situation by doing this one thing that we love to do and we know for a fact will work. That's basically what your brain's going to tell you. It doesn't want you to recover. It wants to interrupt, it wants to disrupt, it wants to sabotage your recovery journey. And the best time for your brain to become opportunistic is when you have relapsed. And once you've come down from whatever high or whatever reward it was that you received, boom, your brain's going to be there to pounce on you and to tell you, you can't do it. You cannot do it. And you see how hard it is? It was so hard that you couldn't do it, but you needed this. See how you needed this and it fixed it straight away? That recovery thing, that's taking who knows how long that's going to take. And it hurts. Look how me it was way too hard. It was too much for you. You know that's too much. You know that's too much. So I guess just a couple of thoughts on relapsing, and what your brain does when you relapse, and what you can do when you do relapse to get yourself up and to continue moving. You know, Relapsing is part of your journey. Accept it. It's just something that you have to deal with. But how you manage it is going to depend on your outlook of it. You know, it's a learning experience. It's a mistake that you'll make that you need to learn from. If you look at it as that instead of the end of the world, that's a different mindset. That's a different perspective. This isn't going to be a perfect run. Don't expect it to be a perfect run. Expect to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. You'll learn from those mistakes and you'll come back stronger. Trust me. That's what will happen. And you know, If you stay the course, then you will get the reward. And whatever that reward is that you're looking for, it's the person that receives it is going to be a better person, somebody that deserves it because they put in the work and the effort to get themselves there. This isn't going to come without work. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.
1,